you know, it comes from like a hustle dance in the 70s. So you have disco dance, you have the Spanish hustle, you have the South Bronx, like all those areas that were like dancing together and partnering dance. But if you really want to go back, then we need to go back to Lindy Hop. That was like 1920s. You can watch the 1940s Hotel Poppers. That was like a movie where you can really see like the origins of Lindy Hop. And especially in this time where we at now, you can see in the movie how like it was Black Afro-Americans, you know, in the time when there was like 1940s in America, there was like segregation. So go back, watch the movie, see the similarities, and then watch the evolution of partnering dance until you are today. So go from like 1920s all the way to the 70s, going all the way to 2010, and you get an idea of how, you know, the hustle kind of developed. That's the point where you see how to move forward and still respecting the history of that. Because you see the evolution at the same time, you see the similarities, so you know how to go with the technical aspect. When I started dancing Nusa Hustle, I was in clubs. There was no classes yet. Mainly, you know, we used to dance on house music, you know, with Fambach, the boardwalk on Coney Island. That was the main rhythm, which made the speed getting eventually a little faster. Eventually, we start developing also on different type of music outside the house scene. So eventually, with the years, we just got bigger and like just expanding the musicality choices.
The main aspect of it to remember is it was started by Jeff. From what I recall, talking to Jeff, he initially was watching hustle dance socially, and he gained an interest in what it was about, and he wanted to learn it a little bit. So he started just dancing with somebody in the park. It was Faya. Okay. I think they were just dancing socially for a while. And I think they did like a piece of choreo together. And she sort of like helped him out with, you know, the partner dancing aspect and regular hustle. But then he went and just started experimenting with it on his own. He also told me at home to practice, he would put like a shirt on a hanger or use a hanger and like a dance with a coat hanger. When he wasn't able to dance with a female, you know, or with a follower at the time. Then at some point, Nicole came into the picture. She was watching him dance and then wanted to be a part of it. So they were social dancing all over the place back when regular hustle dancers, they weren't dancing in Coney Island. They weren't doing none of that. Like they were just dancing at social dance areas specifically set for hustle and specifically dancing to disco. They didn't start to dance over at Coney Island until after Jeff and Nicole and you guys made it a popular thing. At that point, they didn't have a name for it yet. They were just dancing. People were watching. Crowds would gather. You know, everybody was curious about what they were doing. They were asking questions. And I know that you were also dancing with Jeff. Yes. You had asked him to teach you as well.
It didn't have a name yet. It was just like he would just be dancing in clubs and I would be watching and I would be like, I want to learn. Can we dance? And then I guess like I found myself in a cypher. It was very, you know, it was very interesting for me being international and just like not knowing everybody. So it kind of just like beside the technical aspect, the beautiful thing on Nusa Hustle is that it really reconnect young generations to partnering dance. 2010, like those times were like battling and like all of that. Back then, the young generation wasn't really hustling, you know, like together. So Nusa Hustle really brought it back. And that's when younger generations start getting interested again into the whole hustle. We start having classes. Jeff and Robin start teaching classes like beginners, advanced, and then we start performing. We perform like different places like Carnival, SOB, David Letterman, Jeff did the Get Down. There's so much going on.
All right, so you and Jeff were training together. I know at some point in between that time, Robin came into the picture. I think she watched him and Nicole dancing at Coney Island. Later on at a club when he was dancing, she approached him and asked about Nusa Hustle and like wanting to learn about it. This was still before the name came out. if I remember correctly from talking to Jeff, I think when he performed at Cielo and Ray introduced him, New Star Hustle did have a name at that point.
I don't remember the year. I think it was like something like 2014, 15, something like that. By then it had a name.
I remember talking to Jeff, and he told me that, you know, during the time frames that him and maybe like Robin were practicing, she brought up, you know, that maybe he should start teaching classes, teaching what he knows in classes. And then at some point she asked him like to give it a name, and he came up with the name. I think at the time she wasn't loving the name that he came up with. I think it wasn't like a fan favorite at first, but then it stuck.
You know, it definitely needs to have a separate name just because the style and the approach is different. Like if you look at like so many other partners in dance, it's like if you really look at lists, like there's so many, but all of them, you know, are respected in different ways because the approach that they have, the style that they have visually is different, which makes sense to what I said before. Like it's just about the evolution of the dance. Dance never stays the same. It shouldn't be. Like it's art. It's one of those things that always evolve. So definitely because of the time that the type of dance developed, you want to find a name of it for people to go back and say, look, at the time this was New Star Hustle. You know what I mean? That's what people used to do. If you think about it like that from a historical perspective, it makes total sense.